even here from Manny's Mic Locker was to showcase some of the mics that I used. The kick drum had 2 mics in it from the same company, DrAlien. Probably one of the fastest growing, like wildfire, the word got out about this microphone that was sounding as cool or as better or at least similar to a very rare dynamic called a Beyer 380, which is super hard to find and most of them are busted. But this guy in Australia made this mic that is basically a large microphone with 2 sets of capsules. They're both figure 8. One faces forward, one goes back, the bottom one, reverse, and polarity the opposite. And it really has this incredible sound that's figure 8. And the original Beyer 380 was figure 8. So that was my first interest about getting DrAlien, and I was blown away that he sent a new mic called a capsule 8, which is half that version. So I try to utilize it as much as I can during the session. I use the Alien 8, which is the large double figure 8 capsule on the front of the kick, and I'll show you that what it sounds like. And then on the beater, I just literally hung over and taped the capsule 8, not the Alien 8, and that one is just half of it. On the snare, totally blown away by Peluso 414, P414 up on a snare. And I used to have an EB, and I was like, oh my God, I would love to check that out. So Peluso, thank you. They sent me one out. I put that on the snare, and it did not disappoint. I didn't get to use it on anywhere else except the snare on the drums. Obviously, I only have one. But I did bring it back and put it on my guitar, which I'll get to in a second. The last mic of that series were the toms. Lauten, I've had them for, I think maybe about a half a year. I've been using these Lauten 308s. So I thought it was, once again, if I'm doing Manny's Mic Locker, I don't necessarily want to show you a mic that's cool or looks great. I mean, these are mics that I love and that I use. And the 308s have just been, they've been doing it for me. Outside of Manny's Mic Locker, if you look up Cardboard Sessions, there's a whole session there where those mics are definitely featured and really rocking. But on this one, on Manny's Mic Locker, I used them on the toms. Had one on the rack tom, one on the floor. They're condensers, and they have these brass capsules that look like they're about 1 inch apart. So there's something with the cancellation. Some of my favorite mics have 2 elements in them, and they just happen to use the same kind of technology for canceling out cymbals or other noise. And they really sound musical, and for me, at least my style of music that I'm recording, which is always weird stuff, it always makes the benchmark of excellence. So I have a Mojave MA-37, which I love, and I cannot not use it. That's on the rooms, on the floor. And then I have out in the front, which I didn't get to use on the first Manny's Mic Locker, and I'll show you here. I have the Vanguard, the 44, which is their tall microphone with 2 capsules that pivot. I wanted to use it with MS out in front of the drums, and I didn't get to use it in one, but now here we are in number 2, and I'm using the Vanguard large stereo microphone with 2 capsules that move around. One of my new favorites is the Milab, and I look up like I'm gonna see it right here. But the Milab VIP60 goes back to like Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones era. It's an incredible microphone. I use that on the overhead coming above the drums. I wanted a lot of detail of the drums because it's mostly ride, crashing, and bashing. I didn't want a tube mic to be distorting or even a dynamic that has to move with sound pressure to make it work. So the condenser is really nice to put up there for just detail. It's a basher, so I didn't mind the kind of clear image, and that's why I used the Milab VIP60. Didn't need the hi-hat because he didn't rock the hi-hat. On the ride, I used my old faithful 60s AKG D224E, which is one of my favorite microphones, period. But it's a vintage mic. But once again, this is Manny's Mic Locker. I make the rules, and I'm saying I'm going to use all these mics. So hopefully as we progress through other episodes, if I still have these mics in my possession, I will use them and try to use them at different places. So anyways, this is Link Ray. We tracked it live. And even in the video, when you see it, that's me playing it live on the spot. And that was important to me, that I could do the dance, hit the pedal, do the Echoplex, play it live. And I recorded it myself on camera. So it just had the smoke. So this performance is live. Phil, the drummer, is live. Mondo is live. So this is us. The Chavez Ravine is my band. I hope you enjoy it. So one thing about my style of recording, which I know if you've seen anything I've done, I'm kind of like a caveman here. I just go for the bare bones. Like, let's make some sticks together, grind them up, make a fire. You know, come on. Like, it's really minimal style of recording. I believe in the microphones, which why I have Manny's mic locker. I believe in the preamps, which everything I used here were Avitas and BAE. Love the idea. If you look at my Pro Tools, there is nothing all the way across. I have some time delays happening, which I do because my room is small, and I do a little trickery of just adding a little bit more reflection or adding distance. And then as you get into the other instruments, yeah, you'll see some plugins, but not a lot. But technically, I believe in when I do a drum set, it's not really gated. I very rarely, if ever, do not use samples. So I really have to strive to a great drummer, a great drum set. So that being said, when you hear the drums, they are very raw, but the dance is for me to blend all those microphones into making a drum set. And let's go to the 308s on the toms. That's the 2 kicks, the snare, and the 2 toms. Now, because he was using the ride, that's why I used my vintage mic on the ride. So this is just the spot mic, which I love this mic. Just gets the job done. And that kind of dark sound is just what it does. It's never gonna eclipse or just get into that hiss. It's just accurate. And that's why I use the 60s on the ride. So let's add the kicks and the snare and the toms. I've added the ride. I'm gonna add the overhead. This is the Milab VIP60, which is just true and accurate. It's got a rectangular capsule, super stealthy mic, maybe one of my favorites. Just getting the job done. Add the kick drum with it. I mean, you can almost get away with just those two. Let's add in the snare and the toms. I've added in the overhead, and then now the room was the Mojave, which I use it in a strange way. I put it on the floor. I put it on a piece of plywood because my room is really dead. And I do believe as a producer engineer, sometimes if you're not dealt with that Sound City or Dave Grohl studio, you have to make the best of what you have and just don't complain about it, just make it work. So the way I make my drum room work is I put down a plywood, it's like 2x4 maybe, and I set the mics on top of that, and I put them on the floor where it's not touching the floor, but it's kind of on the floor, slightly tilted down, and I have 2 of them usually. One's looking kind of on the outside of the kick towards the snare, and the ones on the other side. I did want to limit it down to how many mics I was going to use on this. I only used 1 Mojave. So my trick that I do is I duplicate that track with everything on it, and I make 2 of them, and then I delay them different. So out in the room, the what I put as the right side, this is the delay setting. If I go to the left side, you just saw it move a little bit. So I have 2 times happening. So these are the rooms by themselves. This is a Mojave MA-37 tube condenser. Whew, these are smokingly cool, dark tube mics, and I love them for drums. So here's the drums just with those mics, slightly offset with delay. So I'm going to add the kick with it. It's off. I'm off. I mean, it's a party. Everybody's showing up. Take the rooms out. Add them. All right. So that's kind of the basic drums. We've ran the garden of all the mics, and now we're left with the Vanguard MS microphone. Once again, I love this mic. It's really flat. It's really not that expensive. I think it's about $1,000. Do yourself a favor. If you want a stereo mic, and they're really super flexible sonically, they're made excellent. So I'm going to play you just the drums. And this mic is broken down with a capsule that can go forward. Actually, you can turn them both so they're forward. But if you use them MS, you have one forward on the bottom, and then the top, you move it sideways so it's hitting figure 8 this way. So you have one forward, and then the other capsule is shooting out figure 8. So that's the way I have them. And because they have an MX box that breaks out in the middle, that sends it out that you can do MS, it's really important that before you listen to your drums in MS, in your DAW, this is a trick on how you know if you really are recording in MS. So I'm going to play the drums. I'm going to first play the bottom capsule, what it sounded like. So this is the bottom. Super flat. I mean, it's right in front of the drums. And the cymbals are not blasting it. Now I'm going to add the MS. So that's all the whistle and bells of everything I did. So what I want to show you regarding the MS is they have a box that comes with it that has one capsule on the bottom that comes out straight at you. And then it has another one that's in phase, and then the top capsule. So one comes out in phase, and then they have a duplicate of it coming out of phase. And that's the starting process of your MS. So MS is one mic that you don't have to use one mic, you can use two. Like let's say you have a 414 and you face it forward to the drums. You can get another 414 and put it on the top and put it on figure 8. That is an MS, but you'll have to still break it out into 3 different channels. And what you'd do is you'd have this forward one going just one channel, then this top figure 8. Even if you're on an analog capsule, you have to duplicate it, make 2 of them, and you flip one out of phase. Now you're probably going like, all right, well, what does that do? Well, I'm going to show you, these are the 2 capsules that are technically should be out of phase. Now, I've moved them around a little bit, so I'll have to put them, make sure they are in phase, but this is a great test for you to see how that works. It's important that in your MS setup, as you move your levels around, you do not move the levels of the 3 mics or the 2 mics broken out into 3, so the MS stays together. So here is the top mic, which is in phase. Okay, so now I'm going to add the same mic, which is now flipped out of phase. And you want to make, as you bring up those 2 channels, the audio should disappear. And that's how you know they're in true MS mode. So when you add the bottom capsule, now you have a wide stereo image. So we're just going to move that one up for you. Let's hear them both together. All right, that looks like the sweet spot of both of them together. Now, because I've grouped these together, I'm going to move up the center channel until I like it. And then once I let it go, doesn't matter what I do in the mix, those three mics, keep them separate so I can move the ambience of that MS within that, and I don't upset the balance of the two mics that are out of phase. Now, I don't have anything on the channel, so they've come out of my system, and that box on the Vanguard, technically MS ready. And I'm just making sure in my digital DAW that they are accurately canceling out. So this way, when I make them stereo, they'll be wide. Because right now they're mono, straight up in the middle. That's how you can check if they're in truly MS. So now I'm going to bring up the center mic. Now I'm about to pull the two mics that were no sound out of and make them left and right, and that image is going to come screaming in left and right. I know it's kind of some black magic stuff. I have no idea. You hear that? That's both of them out of phase, but now you bring up the center. So the thing about MS, it's to taste. There's a lot of matrix boxes you can get out there that people make, and Electrical Audio, Steve Albini's studio, has one that is just so wide you almost have to bring it in. So that being said, when you set this up, I'm just setting this up the way I like it, and that is your, that is your style of doing it. How wide, how deep. MS is really cool. It was used a long time ago, and people don't really use it now. Works really great on like a single organ coming out of one amp. It really makes it 3D. Can use on a violin, on a guitar, on a vocal, anything. If you want to take the time to do the MS, most engineers now are just, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, let's get out of here. And they're not going to take the time. I love engineering, I love recording, so I'm adding this MS, and I am planning on using it a lot more on most records I work on. So that being said, I'm going to mix it in with the rest of the drums. It's not going to be perfect, but if you're mixing it, you can do any way you want, but I do think it's useful. So here's the drums with everything in, and I'm grouping them outside the MS so I could solo them and it does not affect the MS. So let's start with the regular drums, and then I'm going to bring the MS in. I love that. I mean, like I said, I am just feeling around on where sonically I want it to sit, but it really puts a great tool from your toolbox to be using during mixing. And these are just microphones, and these are all cool. So just a basic rundown. We went to the Alien 8s and the Capsule 8 on the kick drum. The Peluso was on the snare. Lauten 308s on the toms. We have the Milab as a center overhead. We have my vintage AKG 224E on the ride because it is a ride banger. And then we have the Mojave MA-37 on the floor. and then I duplicated that to get the room sound. And then actually the V44 was about maybe a foot farther, and it kind of was sitting above the kick drum about maybe 5 feet out. So that's the drums, that's the rundown. Pretty on the inside, who's pretty on the outside?